have this economic driver for the city. Why did you decide to go this route? Like what is it just the opportunity met crossed over, or what is it that's driving you to do this resort here in Ivins? I'm just curious.
It's primarily because the land. I mean, as you know, we're the only place in the United States where three major ecosystems converge, and that's why you've got all the different flora and fauna and geology and colors, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful spot.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have this beautiful spot, and then you've got 6 million people a year that are recreating here, tourists. And in my opinion, there is no there here. So when you come here, where do you go?
Right.
And I mean, other than you're done at the national parks, and no offense to any of not meaning to be derogatory about anything, but I don't think people are coming here to then recreate at Design Outlet Mall, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't have any kind of a sense of community.
Yeah.
And so the idea was to build the there. So you come here, where am I going to go? We have eventually we'll have 25 restaurants and 200,000 square feet of retail, and all of that is walkable on cobblestone streets with no cars interrupting because we shove the cars underneath.
Yeah,
and there's pedestrian bridges that span the roadways over the top. So unlike Las Vegas Strip, where you go up the escalator, over the road, down the escalator, here the cars go under. So you don't have any steps, you don't have any escalators. It's all totally walkable. And so that was that space, that place where there's outdoor music going at night, and it stays open a little later. Mm-hmm. It's not rowdy at all. It's just a fun stroll with shops and restaurants and music.
And you're in this location too that, truthfully, like there's the surrounding neighborhood is pretty far away.
That's
right?
right.
I mean, there's a lot of Entrada that kind of buds up against it, but it's still a second home golf community type. There's not as many permanent residents that kind of butt up against that southern portion of where it all is. But geographically too, like the ridge and everything, it's kind of just set off in its own little island there, which makes it perfectly and ideally located. But taking back, what other projects led you up to this one? Like, is this like the culmination of years of building one resort after another?
It is. I've done about 180 resorts.
180 resorts.
I did my first one in St. Augustine Beach, Florida, when I was 19 years old, and
dang,
have had, when I came here in 2004, I had 150 going at once, and I got here and I walked out on the land where Black Desert is now. And I was here just to look at it. I was living in the Florida Keys at the time, and I walk out on this thing in 2004, and I don't know how to describe it other than to say it felt suffocating. I felt so strongly I was supposed to sell everything I have, and I'm supposed to be here. Really? And my wife said, "Why?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "That's not good enough."
I don't know.
But eventually, I talked her into it, and we moved here within about 6 months later. And now it feels very right that it was good to listen to that inner voice about you're supposed to be here, not commuting.
So have they all been like golf resorts?
No, beach, golf, equestrian, ski, just a little bit of everything. But I've never done anything but resorts. So I've never done just general housing or anything like that. It's always had
entertainment.
An entertainment and amenity that appealed to a lot of people. And it's almost always been second home. So
as you go through those resorts, has it always been you kind of like build it up and then you sell it off, or how have you kind of gone through that as a business model, right? Sure. You're stacking things up as you go along, but
yeah. So basically, what I would do is build the resort, sell off the condos and real estate or whatever it was, operate a hotel for a while until it stabilized, create a management company. And then sell that off at whatever time it was right to do something else. And so when I moved here and put Black Desert under contract, I literally sold every single thing and just said, I'm not supposed to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, this is kind of like the anchor. This is where you want to build this long-term one. Is this the biggest one? It sounds like it is. Yeah,
the biggest one, it's probably 7 times bigger than anything I've ever built before as far as number of rooms. I mean, I've done bigger acreages, but not bigger resorts.
I mean, thinking about going back, back to when you were 19, right? Those early ones, but even from 2004 till now, I can't imagine with like vacation rentals, internet, Travelocity, like thinking of how people vacation and travel, what are some of those lessons? Like what's really changed and what have you applied to this resort that might be different from some of those older ones?
I think the biggest thing is before it was about ROI. I mean, like really, it was about how do you invest the money into this and get the best return out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Black Desert's different. I jokingly call it a whole resort of lost leaders, because it's like, okay, well, we want to do this in such a way that we will never make any money out of it. It'll be so cool. And we do that phase after phase after phase, but it's way fun, you know? And so doing something where it feels like less of a budget or less of an ROI and more about, you know, I probably spend half my time thinking about and meeting with people to see how we can affect the community and the state. Yeah. You know, just showing up and being able to say, hey, you know, not to be obnoxious, but there's been times when like Utah Tech has asked us to do something for them financially, and it felt big to them at the time of an ask, but literally it's like a rounding error at Black Desert because it's so big. It's just like you don't even notice it. Yeah. So so being able to do those things has been really rewarding.
Yeah, there's this element of doing something that matters.
That's right.
Versus just doing something that that makes sense on paper. And I think that, you know, I can't help but empathize with a lot of those people that have those fears around developers that come in and they're like, oh, they're just greedy developers. They just want a buck. Because at a big capacity, you're weighing these risks. Is I have the ability and the interest in doing it, and at the end of the day, I want to be made whole at the end. I don't want to do this at a loss, right?
Sure.
And so, but having all the experience you had, you're able to take a little bit more of these risks on some of these loss leaders. What's the biggest one where you're like, man, this doesn't make any financial sense, but this thing has to happen this way? Is there one on this project that sticks out?
Well, yeah. I mean, the boardwalk is going to be really crucially important. It's a heartbeat of Black Desert. That's where, you know, you'll have 2 million people strolling on that boardwalk, enjoying the restaurants and shops and music and all of that. That was impossible to build, meaning financially not viable. Because it requires putting the equivalent of 4 super Walmart parking lots underground and building the boardwalk on top of it. That, I can tell you, we would lose probably $100 million doing that. So the city approved our public infrastructure district, and we were able to pay for those parking garages. And what the city got out of it, they gave up nothing. They just said, okay, you can do it. Mm-hmm. They gave up nothing. They risked nothing. But in return, what they got was the boardwalk. And all the revenue that'll be captured from that. Mm-hmm. So, but otherwise, this is a totally different resort without the city stepping up and allowing us to use the tools that the state have made available. Yeah.
The geology seems so fascinating too, is like being able to do that in that spot. Like, I can't help but think, did you start digging and be like, we didn't think this was right here? Have you had to make any of those adjustments?
Very small
from the
ones.
Infrastructure side?
Very small ones. We had tons and tons of geotech done, so we knew pretty much what we were dealing with before we broke ground. The really cool, another satisfying thing is that we have had 0 import or export of material. So that's cool. So we blasted where I mean, if you come out, you've seen it. Mm-hmm. We surgically put that golf course in there. We didn't nuke anything that wasn't going to be green or a cart path. Yeah. And so when we blasted the rock and we stockpiled the rock, and then at the same time we're stockpiling the rock that came off the golf course because we're over excavating to put soil in. Mm-hmm. We went over and where the parking garages are going, we dug out all the sand that's great soil for the golf course. And the sand that we needed was the exact amount that came out of the parking garages for the golf course. And then the rock that came off the golf course was the exact right amount for the construction fill, road base, walls around the resort, that kind of thing. So I always just say God was like this close to getting the golf course right.
Yeah, just this close to nailing. He could have just had that golf course to start. So that accounting for some of that reuse stuff, is that anything you take into account on the front end? Is it you're like, hey, I'm going to reuse some of these materials? Is that pretty typical, reusing a lot of that stuff? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not atypical. It just never seems to work out that way. You either have a huge export, it's a big cost, or it's a huge import, and it's a big cost. Yeah, we were just very fortunate that wasn't something that was it was a good curveball.
Yeah, that's a cool one. So thinking through. This being this capital project, and then now it's kind of led way to a few other big golf resort type stuff with the PGA and Tiger Woods doing another course up there. What are some of the lessons that you learned early on in that marketing side to really make this something unique? Do you think it just sold itself, or was there something specific about this project that help you get it over to that, because you almost, I guess you didn't really need those big names, but that's where that domino falling into place to where you're like, this can solidify any of the economic roles that potentially might come our way. Maybe walk me through that sales side of things on these big organizations.
As far as getting like the PGA Tour here, I don't know if you saw, I think you were there at the press conference for that, and Governor Cox said, we've been working on this for 20 years. It turns out we didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Because we didn't ask for any help. We didn't ask for the state to come in and help pitch the PGA Tour to come. The PGA Tour not only gave us a tour spot on the FedEx Cup, but they also have been really working with us on the schedule and getting us in at the right spot. And I one day said, was why I feel like I know why you gave us a PGA Tour stop, but why it seems important to you. And they said that there's nowhere on the PGA Tour where all of the players and caddies and everybody can stay on the resort, and then they can have their own player dining. Like, we're going to give them their own 14,000 square foot restaurant. Nobody else can go in there.
Yeah.
We've got childcare. We're putting up, school, if you will, for just a week. So the players never have to leave. And if they're not on the course, there's no fan interference, if you will, in there, just off behind or outside the ropes experience. Inside the ropes, it's really highly designed awesomely for the fan.
Yeah.
But when the players aren't on the course, they're not playing, they've got privacy.